Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Toronto Maple Leafs fans, on a rainy night in Toronto, we know what follows. Rain is rainbows. It is Pride Night tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And after a very spicy game, the more it went on, the Leafs were able to hold out. Joseph Woll gets his first shutout at home, beating the Vegas Golden Knights after a very spicy night, 3-0 to bring home the win. Big games from new kids, big games from the old kids, big games in goal. What a game. All kinds of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about the newbies that came on tonight. We are going to talk about the Whitecloud wipeout on Matthew Knies, and we are going to talk about the importance of how great Pride Night is for people in the queer community like myself. And if you are an ally of the community, welcome. And if you're not, you should be. So welcome to Game Over. On the other hand side of the screen is my good friend Zach. Zach, just before the stream, we were talking about the newbies, and I said we're going to leave this for the bit. So, getting right into this, welcome to Game Over once again. Hit like and hit subscribe before we talk about all of the good stuff. Make sure you check out all the links and the stuff below, and check out the merch later on. So, before we went live, we were talking about Steves and Minten and Grebenkin, and what a great game all three of those guys had. And you, Mr. Payne, you have a new person on your mantle.
I have a new Pookie on this team. You know, it's always fun to have your favorite players. You know, for years I've had a group chat where our ongoing bit is we are just Austin Matthews fans. We're not even Leaf fans. We care more about his goals, care more about the goal scoring than the wins, because the regular season doesn't matter. We need things to cheer about. I was a big proponent of Nylander when he signed his contract extension and was terrible for a few months. But hey, now the team's good. You need some new young players to cheer about. A lot of people love Matthew Knies right now, but I'm claiming Nikita Grebenkin because, my lord, that was so fun to watch tonight. He was he is everything that I miss about Tyler Bertuzzi in a way. He's physical. He plays with aggression, controlled aggression. He had a hit that might have been a penalty. I don't know. Well, he gets Shea Theodore in the numbers, sends him into the boards. It is what it is. It happens. But no, he was awesome tonight. I know people, I think, I don't know if it was Kevin Papetti or someone else, but was talking about the questions with his offensive upside. But that looks like a bottom six player that could be here for a while.
Yeah, he was every time he was on the ice, it looked like he was crushing someone into the boards and making a really good play. He didn't actually get a point tonight, but he had a couple really good opportunities. I mean, not everybody scores in their first NHL game, but very inspiring. I mean, he just came over this past year, right? Last season was his first season up with the Marlies. And so for him to not have been on North American ice for 18 months and for him to look as good as he does, looks like a good sign for the future, kids. It's been a long time since we had like a young Russian forward prospect. And so for someone that has the Russian machine never breaks mentality coming in onto the team, as a forward, not necessarily as a goalie or a defenseman, but that's been something that the Leafs have been missing for a long time. And Grebenkin tonight, holy cow, he was making his presence known. You could notice him. It was easy to point him out every time he was on the ice.
Yeah, the only thing missing, if we want to talk about old Russian prospects, is if he had like a Nikita Soshnikov level shot, he might be a perfect player. But I think he's one of those guys, he's not going to wow you with anything he does. He's just very solid at a lot of things, and he wins with effort. Yeah. That's the exact kind of player that Leaf fans are going to love.
Yeah, it was every single shift out there was effort, and it wasn't the same kind of effort that Nick Robertson does, where he just looks like he's kind of scurrying everywhere. Everywhere Grebenkin went, he either had the puck or was after the guy that had it. At no point did the guy that he was covering have any moment of peace, and that is a big man to have behind you pushing you into those boards. I mean, he's 22, I think, right? Like, he's pretty young, so I'm not sure.
Turns 22 in February.
Okay, so even younger than I said, which again is great. It means that even if we only see him for, whatever it is, less than 10 games because of his ELC or whatever you want to do, or emergency call-up basis, I'm not sure what they're up on right now, but however long he's up here, if he plays like that in the future, if not right now, I mean, the Leafs are down, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 of their forwards and lost another one tonight. Literally half their forward roster is injured in some way, shape, or form. We have players flying to Germany. I'm sure Matthew Knies was flown to get an x-ray tonight and make sure everything is okay there. And again, we're going to talk about that in the second period. But the way that those new guys came and played tonight, not even Grebenkin, we got to talk about the first goal scorer of the night, Fraser Minten, coming in like a bat out of hell off the bench, getting into the slot and just being in the exact place that William Nylander passed to, right place, right time, 6 seconds into that shift, one times it, and just the smile on that kid's face. Oh. That was nice. Yeah. That was nice. And the Leafs actually managed to hold on to that 1-0 lead essentially until the third period. And so, I mean, I meant to load it up on the computer here. I was going to put Minten right in the middle between us. But if you haven't seen the picture of him skating up to the bench, or maybe you missed the game, just go back and look at the size of the smile on that kid's face. He has a bigger smile than anybody that's in the arena at that time right now.
Yeah, it was shades of Travis Dermott when he scored his first goal, where he's just like it's like the puppy dog almost, just so excited, so happy.
Yeah.
I had a funny exchange with James Myrtle on Twitter after that goal, because he tweeted something out, and Fraser Minten is only 20 years old, right? 20 years old.
He's just a baby.
Even though I'm only 22, that makes me feel old. And I tweeted that. And James, he replied to me. He was like, well, I'm 4 years older than anyone else in the league. It's just something to look forward to for me. With that was it's happened a few times in recent years. Now that players that are in the NHL are younger than me somewhat, that I'm starting to get the taste of, I feel old. And I don't like it.
I mean, it's my birthday next week, and I will be turning 14 years older than you. So, yeah. Anyway, we're young at heart, and that's where it matters. But yeah, Fraser Minten, minted as the newest goal scorer for the Leafs. He had a heck of a game, too. He got promoted later on after Matthew Knies did not return from the game. He ended up on PP1 with the big boys, with Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and Morgan Rielly. For a first game this season, you can't really get a better opportunity. They were able to get a power play goal tonight, cheering over the shoulder. Oh my gosh, finally. We are going to talk about that as well. But yeah, just the new guys coming in tonight. Even Alex Steeves, who was in last Saturday, or last Wednesday against the Caps, he had a phenomenal game too. He really was skating his heart out all the time. All of the new guys tonight, all of the new kids pulled up, it was effort factory. Like, I wasn't expecting Fraser Minten to be on the highlight cam for hits, but he was finishing every check. And he's not like a big guy. Like, he's, 6 foot, 6'1" maybe?
Around there, yeah. It's the same thing, right? It's just effort. It's these more blue-collar players who aren't necessarily as talented, but they just work harder than everyone else. And that's honestly not a bad thing for a Leafs roster that has, let's just say, had some questions about their night-to-night effort over the years.
Yeah. Well, and, there was all kinds of people that were announced today as being on retroactive IR, including David Kampf and, of course, Max Domi also not playing tonight. Pacioretty, we know, is now going to be out long-term, as will Calle Jarnkrok. And it is yet to be determined on Matthew Knies' status. But since we're on the topic, should we move quickly over into our second period, since we have that happy transition there, unless you have anything else you want to talk about with the new kids?
I mean, yeah, we can go ahead and move on. Last thing I'll say is it was a good night for the Toronto Marlies against Vegas here. Yeah,
I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't just have like a full-blown single Marlies line, but the way that bottom six worked tonight, it was great. Like the third line of Nick Robertson, Fraser Minten, and Nikita Grebenkin, and then Alex Steeves, Connor Dewar, and Steven Lorentz. Like, even the fourth line tonight was phenomenal. Steven Lorentz was like shot out of a cannon. He was so good. He had that one really nice shorthanded opportunity that he wasn't able to capitalize on. But he must have taken like 3 or 4 blocks by the end of the game. He had a couple of really good offensive opportunities. And when the third line was out after some of those PKs that the Leafs had, some of the many penalty kills that the Leafs had, the fourth line being out there and holding the zone and being able to basically continue the same amount of pressure for the couple times they were able to was, again, really inspiring to see. I mean, you know, the goal that gets the Leafs off the starter is from the bottom six, and they are able to finish it off, one in the middle, one up at the top with Willie, and then one with Pontus Holmberg getting the empty netter. So I think everybody's going to be happy going out of that game. Maybe not Matthew Knies. But before we move on to the second period, we are going to really quickly talk about the one flagship show on Game Over, Hyperdrive Hockey. It covers all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries, whatever it is and wherever it is. Max, Daphne, and Kev have you completely covered for all of your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can check out the Hyperdrive Hockey directly from the Game Over website as well. If you're not allowed to use YouTube at work, you can still get away with it. So let's move over to the second period. And the thing that happened in the second period that is the only real thing that I had written down for the second period, which is what happens to Matthew Knies 7 minutes and 59 seconds into it. So, Zach, I've been talking for a little while. Why don't you break down step by step everything that happened leading up to and including the hit to get us off started?
So, yeah, this play is going to be the most talked about for, well, the Leafs don't play again until Sunday, so probably until Sunday. Matthew Knies gets the puck, skating through the neutral zone on his left wing, and as he goes to dump the puck in, Zach Whitecloud steps up and delivers a massive, massive hit, and which draws a crowd. There's penalties that ensue, but the initial call on the ice is a 5-minute major, and all the reason they do this is all 5-minute majors are subject to a review process similar to double minor high stickings, which in general is a good thing. It allows the refs to and the situation room to review the call, make sure they get it right, which for such an impactful play, you would hope that that would be the case. On replay, what happens is Zach Whitecloud steps up to deliver a big hit. Matthew Knies has his head down, except it would have been clean, except for this one small detail, is that Whitecloud really, now people are, I'm getting a little fussy with the word jump. He certainly leans up into the hit, and the aftermath of the hit is that he is more than 6 inches off the ground. Now, some people would venture to call that a jump. I certainly was one of those people. Other people said that he had his feet planted on the ground. So I need to question some eyeballs, especially those folks on Sportsnet. But it certainly looked like a bad hit. And I tweeted this out. My problem with the hit is not the fact that Whitecloud is stepping into that hit, because again, Matthew Knies has his head down. He puts himself in a vulnerable spot.
Yep.
And if Whitecloud drives through his chest there, that's the hit of the week, hit of the month. That's a huge hit, and it would have been a clean hit. But it's the fact that he leans up as he drives through Knies, ends up catching him on the chin. It was like chest chin at the same time, which is going to be the explanation for why this was not not a penalty at all. Not a penalty. That's the headline. This was not a penalty. And then Whitecloud gets a 2 minutes for roughing in the aftermath, and the scrum that follows. And Simone Benoit gets 4 minutes for roughing. The Leafs exit that situation on the penalty kill. And to say that Leaf fans were not happy might be putting it very lightly.
Yeah. We're not allowed to play the video on the stream. If you want to find it, it is not hard to find. There are many, 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 many slow motion videos of the situation. I can't move anything on the computer because I don't want to accidentally end the stream, but really quickly, his skates right there, right here. His skates, you can see Matthew Knies' skates underneath of his skates because he is above where Matthew Knies' skates, the top of his foot is, as he's falling down, that left foot is planted on the ice. And Zach Whitecloud is doing his best impression of Elphaba telling you to go see Wicked, apparently, because that man has enough air that you could fit a small dog under him. Like, and on the intermission, they're like, wow, he didn't leave his feet. And then they're like, well, we have all these great camera angles and we can see everything. And then they just lie and say he didn't leave his feet. When, yeah, he did. He did. He did.
By that logic, Ryan Reeves did not lead up, if that's the case.
He did not leave his feet. That's right.
Yeah, by that logic, is all I'm saying. Like, look, again, I don't know, like, at the time that Whitecloud first makes contact with Knies, yes, his left foot is technically still on the ice as he makes contact. But why is he off of the ice after the hit has been made, though? Like, don't gaslight me.
That's like, you don't see anything. Like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Again, like
it's literally like it's literally stop the count, stop the video at the time of the hit being made, and then yeah, sure.
Stop counting the inches between him and the ice. Stop the count.
Just hit pause and don't. It's like, yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah, ignore what your eyes tell you. That is not actually space. He's actually just levitating. Actually, Matthew Knies pulls him up while he's falling backwards. That's why there was a penalty. That's what it must be. Because for the Leafs to come out of the situation, and for the numerous screen caps that exist online of this hit, for the Leafs to then come out with a PK to have to deal with, is just it's a level of satire that most people don't understand. Like, and then the whole intermission, they're just jazzing up Vegas and how, wow, you know what, this looked really bad, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. Whereas I'm like, the more I see this, all I see is the cavern of space under Zach Whitecloud's feet. And to be fair, like, I actually really like Zach Whitecloud as a person. When he won the Stanley Cup, I was super excited for him. He's an Indigenous person from Canada, and he's like one of the first that was able to bring it back to where he was from. And he does so much for his community. And then he does that, and I'm like, why do you make me not want to like you when you do things like this? And it's unfortunate, and I'm sure that he didn't mean to hurt anybody. But when you lay a hit like that and then you jump like you're going to try and do a triple sow cow like a figure skater, Morgan Riley is already married to a figure skater. We don't need another one on the ice. Thank you very much. It was a brutal hit. It was brutal. And I don't know how, like, the Leafs didn't even get a power play until the next period.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so I would have understood. I could have stretched myself to understand if Whitecloud got 2 minutes on that hit, and then Benoit gets 2 minutes, and it's offset.
For the retaliation. Sure.
I could have stretched myself to understand that.
Yep.
But as Musical points out in the chat, the refs failing to control this game as a result of this hit completely blew the doors open on the second period for all kinds of wacky shit to happen. John Tavares suddenly is wrestling people after the whistle. He looks like, I apologize because I forget who said this, but looks more like a captain now than he ever did with the C on his chest. Like, everything was just completely unhinged for the 10 minutes following that hit. There was, I think, the play in the third period that the Leafs got their second power play on, or was it the first, where Simone Benoit is like falling into a hit and then gets his head planted against the wall. Like, this game got really physical really quickly, which I actually think is a good thing, because you know what? It made the game very exciting. It made it feel I'm not going to stretch myself to say playoff atmosphere, because you can't recreate it, but it's a very good Vegas team, and they were playing very physical. These are the type of games that in years past, the Leafs would have gotten smoked in, and they win 3-0.
Yeah. No, and I totally agree. And it's not to say that the Leafs didn't push back, because after that, like you said, as soon as it happened, like, everyone basically threw the gloves off, metaphorically, and they were like, okay, well, if they're not going to do anything about it, we'll do something about it ourselves. Jake McCabe, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, John Tavares, even Bobby McMahon, like, hauls somebody out and gets them in a headlock. And like you said, in years past, they would have just tried to play around it and tried to not counter in any way. And that's not to say that you need to go out there and try to actually injure someone on the other team. That's, even when I'm upset, that's not what we as fans actually want. We don't want anybody actually hurt on purpose. Even if in the moment, at the heat of the moment, it feels like, well, someone just go crank a stick over the back of that guy's shins until he falls over. Like, there is a part of our hockey fandom that does understand that sometimes the violence is necessary. But like you said, and like Al said in the chat, as soon as no penalty was called and the penalty was called the other way against the Leafs, the gloves are off, man. And the game got out of hand immediately following that. There were boos hailing down, and the Leafs feel the crowd they have crowd support through this. And it ends up becoming like there's two offsetting penalties. There's OEL and JT, and then Howden and Holtz go off for roughing all four of them 10 minutes and 22 seconds in, and then a holding call immediately following that by Timmins. Like, that play immediately after killing that off was just... there was no reason to do that. That was such an obvious penalty. That's not even like a conversation.
And he tried to argue it.
I know.
What is your argument? You put him in a headlock and then threw him to the ice, and you want to act like that's not a penalty? That was the most obvious call the refs have made all season.
Who do you think you are, Brad Marchand? You can't just do that and then just be like, what happened? So going into the end of the second period, the shots were 26-13 for the Vegas Golden Knights. It really felt like Vegas was going to try and tie it up, and they get very close, except a minute and 48 seconds into the third period, Whitecloud gets called for hooking. There was a really great opportunity again with Minten promoted to that power play one, and William Nylander gets an unbelievable opportunity after a shorthanded chance goes the other way. Mitch Marner brings it up ice. William Nylander holds, bang in, and he was just... I mean, we don't want to hurt the other team, and we don't want to play in a way that causes us to take even more penalties. And the best way to get revenge in that case is to score. And instead of letting the Vegas Golden Knights get a little breathing room, get, within a sniff of tying it up, instead it goes the other way, and all of a sudden now they're down 2-0 with 18 minutes to go.
So since the start of the Matthews era, one of the core messaging from the Leafs upper management has been, hey, when games get out of hand, we are not going to enter the fray. We are not going to get in these our power play is going to be our toughness. And here's the thing. Obviously, that was really stupid in retrospect. But the Leafs have actually kind of figured out the formula, which is you do stand up for yourself. Mm-hmm. But then when refs miss calls, as long as you don't continue to do stupid things, you will get rewarded, because the more physical you play, the more your opponents are going to then amp up their own physicality and take stupid penalties of their own.
Yep.
And even just skating, the harder you skate on the ice trying to, because you're going to be motivated to play better as a result of a bad hit or a bad missed call. And then look at that, you skate hard, you draw hooking, and you can, a lot of craziness on that power play, but ends up with a 2-on-1 and Nylander's able to score. That's what you want. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah, it's definitely not about having one or the other. It's about having the proper mix of both, right?
Yeah.
It's like the perfect titration if you've watched Breaking Bad or ever taken high school chemistry. You can't have all physical play and then not be able to capitalize on the power play, but you can't just be like, we're just going to play our way out of it, because that doesn't work either, because then you end up just having your show run and your face is rubbed in all night. And so for the Leafs to be more adopting Berube's style and seeing guys that we aren't necessarily in years previous expecting to finish their hits going in and finishing every hit with intention, not just laying into them and being like, I'll see you later. Like, actually trying to finish every check and making the other team uncomfortable is a really nice combination. And, they have a really low period, and then they score 8 and 15, and then they again score 2 and 10 or something. And so again, they're down their captain, they're down major parts of their core, and so for them to be able to get at least one power play goal tonight was great. William Nylander just with the single hand Liberty salute, beautiful. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, look, the Leafs are starting to figure it out. I forget if I was talking to you or Dominic about this, Lauren, but I had said at one point that throughout the season, as we progress, I'll start to judge Craig Berube's performance a lot more critically and a lot more, I don't want to say accurately, but you can get more of a gauge of the impact he's had. You're starting to see the impact. The Leafs look dynamite defensively right now. They are playing super physically. They stand up for each other. They don't let any BS go. They're willing to enter the fray. They're willing to go to the tough areas. Even I saw Nick Robertson try to land a hit on Braden McNabb tonight.
Let's go.
Like,
David and
that
Goliath,
is
baby. Let's go.
that is like lunatic behavior, and that's just what the Leafs identity is becoming, slowly but surely. And I'm very excited to see how this will translate the rest of the season when they start to get healthy and we're not relying on a bunch of 20-year-olds to play in the top 9. So yeah, the returns are, you're starting to see the returns of the Berube hire.
Absolutely, and it's just heartwarming to see more than anything else. It's nice to not see the Leafs just get their faces smashed in and their noses rubbed in it all night. Honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, there was a there was a tweet that went out a couple days ago, and it was like, boy, would you like to have Brad Marchand in the fire sale from Boston right now? Because, they just fired their head coach and are not exactly playing well, which is just lovely to see. And tonight was one of those nights where I was like, maybe it'd be pretty sweet to have him, though. Like, that, pretty sweet. But, again, it doesn't matter. We get the 2 points.
I saw some people being like, oh, Zach Whitecloud doesn't make that hit if Ryan Reeves is in the lineup tonight.
Yes, he does.
Like,
that's why he's a Stanley Cup winner.
Relax.
Yeah.
I love the overration. Is that a word? Overration? The overratedness of Reeves' impact. Like, people are like, see, as soon as he gets taken out, something will happen. Be like, this wouldn't happen if Ryan Reeves was here. It's like, no, this happens because it's hockey.
Yeah, it sounds
like,
it sounds exactly like, wait till my father hears about this. That's what it sounds like. It has those same vibes. So we are going to jump over to the third period. Make sure that you hit like and subscribe, and make sure you put your questions down in the chat, because we are going to be taking your questions over in the overtime segment. But before we get to the third period and overtime, we're going to talk a little bit about how Game Over Network is an independent production company focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting our network, we have crowdfunding options available in the description of the episode below right down here. You'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise about 15 grand, and if we hit that, we'll be able to have access to all kinds of grants. That's going to get us all kinds of access to more things that we need that will make the show even better and get even more people into our wonderful community, because if you're here, you know how great we try to be as a team and how welcome we are, and we want all fans of every kind of creed and background and history and fandom to come and have a home with us here at Game Over. So if you could share this with someone that you know, a hockey fan, if there's somebody that maybe hasn't watched a lot of hockey and they want to get into it, you're always welcome to send them our stuff, and we try to be as inclusive from the beginning as possible. So make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, and we are going to move over to the third period and talk about the fact that tonight the Leafs won their Pride Night game, which is not normally a game they play very well in. Obviously the Pride jersey thing has gone the way of the dodo, unfortunately, but there were a couple of photos circulating online with a specific Leafs jersey with John Tavares' name done in Pride tape, and I just want you all to know that that is a very wonderful human named Robert Malloy, and that is a hell of a nice job taping that jersey. And I don't know what the Leafs actually did for a lot of the Pride stuff this year. I know last year they had pretty sure they had drag queens in the lot all at the Pride Night tonight. So even though there are lots of players that are still deciding and have basically caused the league to no longer wear Pride jerseys, it was really nice as a queer person to see that my team is still, the forerunner in the NHL when it comes to Pride stuff. The Leafs were the first team actually in the NHL, if you don't know this, Zach, to actually lend their brand to a LGBTQ movie all the way back in 2007. They were the very first ones to do it. They were also the first team in the NHL to hold a Pride Night. So they are not perfect. The NHL is not perfect when it comes to Pride. There is lots that we could all do to be a little bit better as a community, and the league could do a little bit better job of not only supporting the queer community, but things like the Indigenous Nights, the Women's Month, the Veterans Nights, all of those things, the Hockey Fights Counselor Nights. All of those things are really important to all of us as hockey fans, because even if you're not part of the queer community, you're going to be part of one of the communities that needs to be recognized more, because The fact of the matter is, if you live in Canada, you live amongst all people from all different places in the world, and hockey should be more of a place for everybody. And hopefully, as time goes on, with the world changing the way that it is, with women's hockey becoming more of a thing, and again, broadening more horizons into more people's living rooms, I just hope that the game that I love continues to grow and get better and be a better league than most other leagues in the world. Don't get me wrong, the NHL is not perfect, but in comparison to things like the MLB or the NFL, it really is a forefront runner. So if you went to the game tonight, then I hope you had a good time, and please do everything that you can to reach out to our community. I know that our other host, Dom, was actually at the game tonight. I imagine he is going to have all kinds of fun things to tell us when he is on next. Do you want to talk about Pride Night at all there, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, look, we could go on for an eternity about all the things the NHL does wrong.
Yes.
Right? Like, and I know that, like, the decision to stop with the Pride Night jerseys was very cowardly and weak. If players have objections to the jerseys, I mean, I don't understand it, but sure, it's just a jersey. Put it on. If you don't agree with it, who cares? But look, I can't speak for what it means to the people in that community, but I imagine that it feels rather like awesome just to see your community respected and appreciated on that level, and especially compared to I'm a big NFL fan, so I am very well aware of the lack of real attention in the NFL world. There's very few players that have come out in that community because let's just say it's not the nicest place for them in the NFL world. But in hockey, we try to do a better job at being an example for everyone, even with all the problems with hockey culture that are well documented. Look, you got to work with what you got. We don't have that much to work with in hockey culture, but we can still make the most of it. So, yeah, spread love and positivity, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with that, we're not gonna rub the pride flag in your nose any more than I have to, other than just doing this for clout. But let's move over to overtime. So please make sure you get your questions over into the chat. We are going to get to those. There aren't really any so far, but that's okay. There's always lots to talk about. Really quickly, before we do that, I'm going to move Zach's face, and we're going to talk a little bit about the merchandise that we have on Game Over, because if you have not seen our merch, then I don't know what you're wearing, because our merch is some of the nicest, most comfiest merch that I've ever owned, and I have owned a lot of merchandise in my life. You can actually find the merchandise if you go to thegameovernetwork.com. What a better way to support something that you love than by rocking it as clothing. The Game Over apparel line has dropped. We have 3 unique designs, whether it's nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, whether you want to make a statement with our established design, or if you want to wear your love for the goalies proudly on our Live and Die by the Goalie design, or if you just need another cup of coffee to get you through the winter, we have you covered. This was all designed by Brady from Game Over Winnipeg from last season. It would do a big thing for us if you could go and wear the merchandise if you do watch our show, just to get people asking about it and get people over here a little bit more. So if you haven't checked it out, there is a QR code right here on the screen that you can click on, or you can scan with your phone. It'll bring you right to the webpage, and go check it out. Like I said, the material is great. It's super well made, actually, on the front. It hasn't flaked off at all, and I've already washed my shirt half a dozen times. So very inspiring to see. Lots of other merch that I've had does not fare very well after a single wash. So please, it would do us a big favor if you could go check that out. And with that, let's bring Zach's pretty face back, and let's get over to the overtime period. Now, we did talk a little bit about the power play tonight. We only get to see it twice. The interference from McNabb, where Benoit was basically smoked after taking the other hit down. There was a couple of really good shorthanded opportunities for both teams going the other ways, and I don't think it would have been far-fetched for either of those goalies to let those in, because both goalies were tested pretty well tonight. I mean, obviously, Joseph Woll was significantly busier. But as the game went on, the Leafs were able to really come back in terms of the shot clock. So what did you think about the special teams tonight? You know, they essentially go 1 for 2 on the power play, and then they go 3 for 3 on the PK.
I think the penalty kill specifically is very symptomatic of the defensive structure as a whole. It's been rock solid lately. Like how demoralizing would it have been after the Knies incident for Vegas to then go score on the power play, right? Like that would have been absolutely devastating. But the Leafs kill it off because they're a poised team, and even with a bunch of children in the lineup, they managed to get the job done. And both goalies, as you said, were tested. I know Joseph Woll might have had the busier night. Aiden Hill, I think, faced the higher quality of shots in this game. He had a couple of doozies in this one. Is he going to be Team Canada's goalie? I don't know, but he certainly had a good game tonight. He gives up 2 goals. I don't think anyone would have blamed him if it was 4 or 5, because the Leafs were getting some really good chances in this game. A lot of chances right close to the net too, where Hill was falling down, having to scramble around the crease. So I was really impressed with him. On the Leafs power play side, I mean, how seriously can you grade the top unit when 20-year-old Fraser Minten is on it? Like, I love Minten, and he had a phenomenal game, as we mentioned earlier, but like, that's just not a conversation. You can, like, it's a tough game to evaluate the power play because so many forwards are out. It's remarkable how the defense has somehow stayed relatively intact, and the forwards are just decimated right now.
Why would you say that out loud?
Oh, hey, it's okay. They have depth back there.
We do. It's true.
They have 8 NHL defensemen. Like, they're fine.
And a couple down in the Marlies that would like to have a look at themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, look, the Leafs have been very battered by injuries so far this season, and the power play is starting to find its stride and making do with the lack of options that are available. Considering how we started the year, I am not going to complain at all.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, tonight, like you said, how well can you judge it when Fraser Minten's on the top line? I mean, credit where credit's due, man. He was on the ice when they got the goal. So maybe not something we want to see all too much in the future with any hope it doesn't come to that. But it's nice to know that he is capable of holding his own and that he does not just become like a puck suck, essentially, where the play just goes to die, right? He was making...
A David Kampf.
Yeah, listen, you leave David Kampf alone. He does not belong on the power play, but he's great on the PK. And like you said, for the PK to come through as good as it's been tonight, I mean, at no point, again, knock on wood here, kids, at no point really this year has the penalty kill been an issue. Like, it's been pretty decent. Yeah. It's been pretty good. It hasn't been a sore point. The power play has been a sore point, and it has been tempestuous at best, but the PK has been pretty consistently average or above average all so far this season. And considering how many shots our PK is having to block right now, it's a little bit of a miracle that, like you said, we don't have more defensemen out, because Chris Tanev is currently leading the league in blocked shots, and every time he does, I do this. I squint a little bit harder, expecting him to go down with an actual injury. And so, again, knock on wood, it doesn't happen. But he has been so great on the PK. That PK unit, both of them have been great. And even the Leafs play immediately following the penalty kill. In years past, they had a bad habit of they would kill it off, and then, maybe within a minute or two, the other team scored anyway. They have done a really good job of continuing the momentum that they build from getting a really good kill. It was just really nice. It was really nice to see. So yeah,
exactly. And like at the start of the year, the penalty kill was fine. It was fine. Average. It wasn't a problem. It wasn't necessarily anything to write home about. The last few games, it's been pretty unreal. I'm not gonna Edmonton got a fluky one on Saturday, but I mean the Leafs completely held them to nothing on a 5-minute power play. So that's the Oilers too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's year in, year out, a top 3 power play unit with the best player in the world on it. So pretty good. Pretty good.
There is one really good question from Music for Al. Does Robertson hear footsteps from Grebenkin? Not running around and very dangerous at offensive end, defensively good as well. If he plays another couple games like that, I think if Grebenkin plays as well as he did tonight, and Nick Robertson's play doesn't get a goal, and if Grebenkin does, then maybe the Leafs become more open to the idea of trading him. The reality is Nick Robertson isn't a super big guy, and his hits are not equivalent. Again, it's been one game. I think Grebenkin had like 15 minutes of ice time tonight. So again, let's not put the cart before the horse, but it's pretty inspiring to see, and it's nice to know that we have so much forward depth that we can literally be down half of our roster and still be able to shut out a team that is leading the West right now.
Yep. Like, look, if Nick Robertson lost his job to Grebenkin, I think he might boycott the Leafs for the rest of time. We know about the trade request, and his he needed to be reassured that his ice time would be a little bit more guaranteed this season. If he loses it to this 21-year-old call up from the Marlies, that would be spicy, to say the least.
That'd be a big blow to the ego. And at that point, you would probably just want a fresh start. Now, really quickly, before we head off, there was a rumor that I saw earlier online that last year the Leafs were kicking tires on Morgan Fries from the Philadelphia Flyers. And allegedly, the Flyers were asking about Nick Robertson. Now, Morgan Fries had like 21 goals last year on a Flyers team that was not very good. And currently, Nick Robertson has what? A goal? 2?
2?
Maybe I think he had 2. I think he had 2, but then one was called off.
One's been called off for sure, but let me find out. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure Pontus Holmberg and Nick Robertson have the same amount of goals right now.
And Fraser Minten, thank you very much.
That's right. I gotta put a little bit more respect on Mr. Minten's last name.
Robertson. Oh, you want to make this worse?
Yes.
Robertson has 1 goal this season. That is his only point.
Who has more points? Who shockingly has more points?
All right. So he has the same amount of points as Ryan Reeves in the same amount of games. Actually, he's played more games now. Pontus Holmberg, Simone Benoit, Chris Tanev, David Kampf, Connor Timmins, Steven Lorentz, Jake McCabe, Max Pacioretty, Max Domi, Bobby McMahon, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Austin Matthews, Matthew Knies, Morgan Riley, John Tavares, William Nylander, and Mitch Marner. All are ahead of him in points. Have we had a goalie point this year? Did Stolarz get an assist on?
I don't know.
Will get an assist on the Tavares overtime winner in Washington? He might have the same amount of points as a goalie. Hold on.
Oh my god.
Let me go back. No, they didn't give Wool an assist.
Damn it.
I don't know, but if there's been a goalie points, then Robertson has the same amount of points as a goalie.
Yeah, I would rather have Steven Lorentz. Just saying.
You know what? Who is actually, there was a stat earlier this year when the Leafs didn't score on the power play for like ever. There was been a goalie in the NHL this year. I just forget who it was. There is a goalie out there in the NHL playing right now that has the same amount of goals as Nick Robertson.
Oh.
I'm finding that name.
Please do. I'll delay for another 25 seconds. Yeah, so before we finish off today, and while Zach is pulling up that name, please do what you can to actually support the channel just by hitting like and hitting subscribe, by telling somebody that you know that likes hockey about it. It goes a long way to just, even if you get an extra pair of eyes in here to check us out once or twice, hopefully we can get them to stay. Our wonderful personalities can get them to stay, and your wonderful questions can get them to stay. So if you could go check out the Game Over Network website, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe. If you know that people aren't going to watch this, but maybe they like hockey on their commute, that we always upload the audio to everywhere you can get your podcasts afterwards as well. You can follow me on Twitter and on Blue Sky at Lauren in the Six. You can follow Zach Payne on his socials on
Zach Payne 41 on Twitter. And Blue Sky, I'm not really active on Blue Sky, but you can follow me if you want. And yeah, just subscribe to Game Over Toronto. And it was Philip Gustafson. That's the goalie who has the same amount of goals as Nick Robertson. So yeah, do with that information what you will.
And that will do it for Game Over Toronto tonight. Leafs big win, shutting out the Vegas Golden Knights 3-0. Holmberg with the empty netter. Minten getting his first goal as a Leaf. It was a great game. It was a great Wednesday. It was a great stream. Thanks, Zach, for coming on. And we will see you on Saturday. Have a great night, everybody.